these kind of flyers are more for advertising the event and for having a lot of attendees. The second type are infographics. So infographics are graphics and visual representations of information, data, or knowledge. And so we use these in Inspire a lot, when we want to showcase different information. For example, if you guys have seen on our Instagram, when we did little infographics about COVID myths, that's just an example of what when we have used infographics. Another type of flyer are promotional flyers. So promotional flyers typically are single-paged. They're unfolded printed sheets, and they draw attention to a specific product or a service. Promotional flyers can be in addition to the event flyer. So if you want to promote any kind of raffle or any kind of prize that you're giving out at the event, you can create a promotional flyer for that. So some parts that make a flyer a good flyer. So what makes a good flyer? We can have limited text, attractive visuals. We need to make sure that we are following a theme, key information, and we have to keep in mind of the size of our flyers. So when it comes to creating flyers that stand out, less is more. So when we are making flyers, we only have a couple of seconds to capture the attention of the people of our audience. So we want them to look at the flyer very quickly and be able to tell what the event is or what we're trying to promote. So some things to keep in mind are to not clutter the flyer with too much imagery or text. Typically, 50 to 150 well-chosen words should be used. Anything over 150 words would be considered a brochure, and it would become very wordy. By well-chosen words, some examples would be to include words such as how to, discover, unlock, and kind of words that have great potential and that kind of draw the attention of your audience. So the purpose of the flyer is to draw attention to a specific event, product, or service. So you want the attention to be on the event itself and not on the text on the flyer. As opposed to when we have infographics tend to have more text than event or promotional flyers because we're trying to spread some information. We're trying to educate the public basically with infographics. So this is why on infographics, it's okay to have a little bit more text. So some examples of things that we should have in terms of limited text. We should have a snappy headline or title. It's important to make the headline catchy or provocative using few carefully chosen words, which is something that I spoke about already. So we can use powerful words and phrases in order to draw the attention of our audience. We should be using action words, so use action verbs and avoid using passive voice so that our readers are more attracted to what we are trying to promote or what we are trying to speak about. And in terms of limiting the amount of text on the flyer, it's easier to have text in bullets rather than long paragraphs, just so that you can get the ideas very quickly, and it's easier on the eyes of the audience. So the next part is attractive visuals and imagery. So one thing that we can have is we can have bright or brilliant colors. So we should be using colors on our flyers that are consistent with our brand. So the colors and the color scheme of the flyer should kind of go towards what the event is and what kind of event that you are looking to promote. So we should be using colors that are consistent with our brand. We can also be using different font styles and sizes, and this is something that Jacqueline will speak more about at the end of the presentation. So when we are using text, the text should be legible, clean, and reflective of this brand that we're trying to promote. The priority should be that people can actually read what the flyer says. So if the focal point of the flyer is to promote this event, people would want to know what the event is and more information about the event, and they will find that information through the text. So we want to keep the text very limited, but we also want to position it in a way so that it is catching the attention of the audience. For a more cohesive look, it's recommended not to use more than 2 fonts throughout your flyer so that your flyers don't look very messy and it looks very well put together. In addition, we can also have different images on our flyer. So if we're using a large image, we should find subtle colors in the images that don't take too much away from the overall flyer, and we should still stick to the color scheme from the flyer with the images. So if we are using any images on our flyer, we can edit those images to make sure that they fit the look of the flyer that we're going for. We should always use high quality images. It's preferred to use PNG rather than JPEG just because of the higher quality, and colorful images that will grab attention. So if the pictures are dull and unclear, then the message that you're trying to send most likely will be dull and unclear to the readers as well, because they won't want to see a flyer that is blurry or a flyer that they can't really read. It puts a strain on the audience or on the people that you are trying to get to come to the event, because if they have to put more work into learning more about the event, they will most likely not want to come. In terms of imagery, we can also consider using free stock photos that are available online. Stock photos are a great way to incorporate imagery into flyers. Oftentimes they are very high quality, so they are a very good focal point. Using an image as a focal point can pull viewers in to look at the flyer more closely. So we can use images, we can use larger images in order to be the main point of the flyer so that it attracts the people's attention, and then they will come towards the flyer and they will look into it. So in terms of theme, we want to choose a theme that fits well with our brand, our organization, and a purpose. So we want to engage readers with that focus. So we want to create a focal point, and we want to keep our target audience in mind. So if we are targeting our flyers towards students, we will most likely create flyers using a theme that will be attractive to students and not to faculty members or members of the general public, just so that we are consistent with that brand and that we are creating a more cohesive look. So some key things to include in a flyer: we should always have the date of the event, the time of the event, location of the event, and this is very important in terms of mode of service in the times that we're going through now, if our event is going to be online versus if it's going to be an in-person event. We should always include any incentives for people to attend. So if we are having an event and we are handing out prizes or handing out raffles, if we have any special promotions that will most likely attract a higher number of attendees, we will always want to put that on the flyer. And any contact information. So if anybody has any additional questions that they want to be answered, they can always reach out to you, or they can reach out to whoever contact information is on the flyer. So in terms of size and spacing, usually flyers are 1 letter size page, so 8.5 by 11 inches, but they can also have alternative formats depending on what you are using the flyer for. So we can have trifold brochures, and those are most typically aligned with the infographics, or if you're wanting to give a little bit more information about an event or a little bit more information about a product. We can have half-page leaflets. Half-page leaflets are more, they have an attraction point towards the pictures, and usually we have like the location and just the name of the event on them. And then we can also have A4 sized flyers that are a little bit bigger to put in places where we have more traffic or more people traffic, so that people can see the flyers and it really grabs their attention. And we can also have flyers now that are digitalized. So we can have Instagram posts, Facebook posts, just regular advertisements also. So these are kind of examples of some flyers that we've done in the past with Spire. On the left, we can see an example of what I was talking about before, so kind of like that half-page leaflet. So in this flyer example, we can see that we have contact information or a little bit more about us. So Stony Brook Young Investigators Review is really big up on top, so we know who we're talking about, who is hosting this event. What is the event? So we have the Spire Symposium, and when the event is, what time it is, and the mode of the event. So we have Saturday, November 14th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and then it will be on Zoom. So this is kind of an example of what I meant before with the half-page leaflet, where the focal point is the picture, and then the picture will draw more attention into the details about the event. On the left side, we have something similar where we have a full page. So this is a letter sized page. And this one was created more for digital advertising. So up on top, we have the name of the event in big letters, and the imagery will kind of draw the attention of the audience. And then we have the location, the date, the time, and then we also have on this one an RSVP link so that people can RSVP for the event just because it is an online event. And then as always, we have our branding on the bottom. So we have our Spire logo, and then in this case, this was a collaboration with the Neuroscience Axis, so we also have their logo on the bottom. So these next two flyers are a little bit different in that they have more text. So these flyers were more to promote the Spire Research Symposium and to give people more information about what the symposium is, when it is. And in this case, for the flyer on the left, we were looking for people to participate in the symposium. So because we are looking for people to participate, our audience is students, and we're looking for people that are interested in potentially being presenters at the research symposium. So we want to give a little bit more information about what the symposium is and what kind of presentations they would be giving. So that's why we have a little blurb on the bottom that kind of gives a little bit of information. So participation in the symposium consists of a 15-minute presentation on your work, followed by a 5-minute Q&A session and 5-minute feedback session from faculty moderators. So as you can see, this is one sentence. It's very simple. It has all the details about what a presenter would be doing at the event. On the bottom, we have the contact information that I was speaking about before. We also have the date, the time, and then we also have a link for more registration details where people can go to so that they can see more information about the event. On the right side is a similar flyer for the research symposium. In this case, we are not looking for people to participate, we're looking for people to attend. So the focal point of this flyer on the right-hand side would be kind of like the incentive to join the event. So we have our keynote speaker from Stanford University, and we have his name, and we have what he will be speaking about, and we have the time that he will be speaking. So this is important because we have not only the time of the event, but the time of the speaker. So the speaker kind of serves as the incentive for people to join this event. On the left of this flyer, we also have this little, what shape is this? Like a little ribbon that says chance to win a $25 gift card. So this is also another incentive. So if we're having any prizes, any raffles, if we're having any important people coming to speak, or people that will, give a lot back to the students that are presenting or students that are coming to attend the event, we would want to put that on the flyer. This flyer also has an image. So the image is a focal point in this case. So because you see the image, it's a bit abstract. You want to learn more about what this flyer is talking about. And as you can see the image, the coloring on the image, we have a lot of different colors on a plain white background. So it takes away, it does not take away from the background. The focal point would be the picture, and then we want to know more about what this picture is, what this flyer is about. Jacqueline, you can move on to the next slide now.
Okay. So I'm going to be talking about different platforms where you can put together a flyer. So we'll be going over Adobe, Canva, and Google Drawings. For Adobe, there's a lot of different apps you can use, but we'll be focusing on Illustrator, Photoshop, and Spark. Okay, so for Adobe Illustrator, it's a great software to use if you want to make graphics or digital illustrations. I know I use the word illustrations, but it's a good tool you can use even if you can't draw. So here's an example. You see this picture here. So like this is a drawing I made using Illustrator, and I'm not really good at drawing, but just using Illustrator, I was able to make a replica of it. Just using like there's a tool called Pen Tool that you can use. It basically makes a bunch of lines, and as you can see, you can create like a lot of things using just lines and just colors. If you're not really good at drawing, this is like a good way to practice just getting an image and practicing tracing over it. And another way of making cool illustrations on Illustrator is using shapes. So here you see the Twitter logo. So this logo is actually made entirely of circles. So yeah, you can see that you can make a lot of things just by using shapes. Yeah, a lot of like the logos you see are actually just a bunch of shapes placed together really creatively, and you can make some really cool logos or drawings. So yeah, moving on to Photoshop. So I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of Photoshop. It's great for editing photos. I think some of the key features it offers are color correction or filters, cropping, and background removal. So I think specifically for flyer making, background removal is especially useful. So you see this picture here of this woman with like a background behind her. If you wanted to remove the background and just have her, it might, she has like hair, like all these wispy hair flying everywhere. So it's like she has like a lot of intricate details, like the subject of this photo has a lot of intricate details. But using Photoshop, you can still separate the subject from the background. And I think Photoshop, like the new versions come out every year, and I think they're like the feature for separating a subject from the background gets better each year. So it's pretty exciting to see that, and it'll help you moving forward. So for Adobe Spark, it allows you to make not just posters, actually you can make graphics, short videos, and web pages. So it's pretty interesting that way. It comes with a bunch of different customizable templates. So yeah, here are some examples. And here's a link that you can check out. We'll be posting these slides later, I believe. And you can check out the links for yourself. Yeah. So going back to the presentation, so I think one of the downsides of Adobe is that you do need a subscription to use it. And it's kind of expensive if you want to purchase it on your own. So we're also going to be showing you some other software you can use if you want to create flyers without having to shell out a lot of money. Oh, sorry. So we have Canva. I think Canva is sort of similar to Spark because it comes with customizable templates as well. You can add your own images, texts, and different elements such as graphics and lines, and we'll be showing you that right now. So one of the things we use our posters for is to post on Instagram. And here they have a section just for Instagram posts. So I can click on one just to show you what it's like. Yeah, so here is like a panel for all the different ways you can customize your poster. So they have a template here, but you can just resize like the shapes or the images. You can change the text. You can add different elements to it. So if you wanted to add like a line here, you can also upload images. So different options for uploading. You can upload your own photos. So maybe like a logo for your club, etc. So that's for Canva. And then next we have Google Drawings. So Google Drawings is, you can work with a bunch of different elements, such as lines, shapes, text, and images. And Google Drawings is very accessible because all you need is a Google account. So actually, I have here, just showing you some different things you can use on Google Drawings. So there's all these different panels. Here is panel for lines. You can create like just a normal straight line. There's a polyline that, so you can sort of connect different lines together, and you'll end the line by clicking on it twice. And then you can change the weight of the line. So if you want it to be thicker, you can do that. You can change the color. So this might be helpful if you want to like separate certain elements. And also a tip for the lines is if you press down Shift, then it creates like a straight line versus like you trying to do it freehand, it might be a little crooked. Yeah. And then there are also shapes, and Google Drawings has a lot of shapes. So like a smiley face. If you want it to size proportionally, you can also press down Shift. It'll like, you can resize it proportionally. There's also callouts. So like, I guess like speech bubbles or like these kind of shapes, which I think would be pretty interesting to incorporate in flyers. And again, you can change the colors of it, make it transparent. There's also the border color that you can also change. And you can play around with the weight of that as well. Yeah, and then there's text. So you can add your text here. I think an interesting feature on Google Drawings is you can center things either horizontally or vertically. So I think that's pretty cool as well. You can add your own images. So here's several options for doing so. So I'm add the Spire logo. I think one thing that I can point out is that this the logo is saved as a PNG, so it has a transparent background, and this can be helpful if you have like a background that's like a different color. It's like this. That way, when you put the logo, you won't have like weird white space around it, and it'll look cleaner, neater, more professional. Yeah, those are some of the features of drawings, and there's a lot more other things you can do, but those are like the basic features of it. And I will show you an example. This is the flyer for this workshop actually, and it was made on Google Drawings. So it's kind of simple, but it's like you have an image here, the Spire logo, and some text, and then more images. So kind of like sweet and simple, and you can do all of that just through Google Drawings. Yeah, so just like as a summary of what we've said, the process for making a flyer. So the first thing you can do is like determine the purpose of your flyer, and what Debolina said in the beginning of the different types of flyers. So determining your purpose can help you decide what kind of flyer you should make. and then gathering the important information. So we gave some examples of key information you should have. So like location and time of an event, or anything else your audience needs to know. And then third is find or create relevant or eye-catching visuals. So some of the, so some of the software that we've mentioned, such as Illustrator or drawings, you can use that to make visuals to complement the information on your flyer. And once you've done that, you can just put it together and you have a great flyer to advertise your event or some information. And recognize that not everyone's creative process might be a little different. So maybe you might modify this a little for yourself, but this is like the baseline for how to create a flyer. And so here are some additional tips and tricks you might want to keep in mind when making a flyer. So keeping it simple. So we mentioned not to put too much text on your flyer. This also goes for your visuals. Really just the point of a flyer is to catch an audience's attention. So if you have too much on it, it might be too overwhelming and the audience might not want to like look deeper into your flyer and see what it is that you're trying to tell them. And then the second tip is to look for different fonts. Fonts actually, they can make a really big difference when you're making a flyer. So there's like, you have your basic fonts, but there's a lot of different fonts out there, and you can use different tools to find them. So one of them is Google Fonts, which I'll be showing you. So for Google Fonts here, they have different categories of fonts. So serif and sans serif. This is an important difference to know. So serif fonts are fonts where the words have like little protrusions on them. So like Times New Roman, or this font here, Newsreader, you can see there's like little like legs sort of attached to each letter. So those are serif fonts. Sans serif fonts are fonts that don't have that. So like Arial, Calibri, those kind of fonts. And then the other ones, so like display and handwriting, they're like more kind of fancier fonts. Those are usually used for titles, and not necessarily for like a large body of text. And monospace is like text where each letter is like the same width, so it kind of looks like typewriter text. But so for Google Fonts, you can sort of choose what kind of categories you want, and you can just scroll through and see if there's anything you like. And this is good for like seeing what kind of fonts might look good. You can type something and see what it looks like in the fonts that they have. Yeah, and then if there's a specific font that you want to look for, you can also search for it. And so yeah, and then it'll show up, and you can click on it. So this is a pretty interesting font. It's not one of your typical fonts. So going back to what I said about how you can find some more niche fonts that might help your text pop out. And then you can download your font family onto your device. And if you're using Adobe, if you install the font on your device, then you can use it on Adobe. If you're on Google, you can just activate it on Google. So here you can see like click on more fonts, and you can just like choose from a variety of them. And then another place where you can look for fonts is Adobe Fonts, which is sort of similar in the way it works. You can browse for fonts. And Adobe Fonts also allows you to sort of search by category. So when it loads, can show you. And then if you have an Adobe account, you can activate the fonts onto your Adobe apps. When the next time you open an Adobe software, the fonts will just be on there and you can use it. So yeah, here you can see like the categories. They have sans serif and serif. Their categories are a little different, but like it's like the same concept. You can sort of search by different categories, and you'll see yeah, different fonts. You can click on a specific one to view it. And then also fonts, they can come in different styles. So what that means is like if they're italic or bold, or like the weight of it, so like it could be light. And if it comes in a lot of different styles, then you'll have to like activate them one by one. And for Google Fonts is you can see the fonts can also come in different styles. So when you download it, you'll have to install each style one by one, or you can just install the styles you want. So that's something you can keep in mind. And then, so going back to the tips, the final tip is that you can play around with multiple platforms. So you don't have to just use like one software to make your platform. You can edit an image on Photoshop and then upload it onto Canva or Google Drawings and put your flyer together there. So you can, there's a lot of room to just play around and just put things together on different platforms. So you have a lot of room to, you know, experiment in that way. Yeah. And then here we're going to have an activity where we're going to show you different options for flyers, and you can choose which one you think should look better. And just keep in mind the tips that we told you today. And yeah.
Yeah, so of these two flyers, which flyer do you think is better in terms of the points that were made in this presentation? And we want you guys to think of which event you would be more likely to go to based solely off of the flyer. So the way that the flyer is presented, which event you would be more likely to go to. I think there is a poll set up for this. You guys can answer in the poll. Yep, so we're seeing a lot of right. If any of you guys would like to just like type in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and kind of tell, speak about why you chose the right one. All right, so Anisha said more image and less words. Shrey said the left one has too many fonts and colors. Yes, definitely. So it goes back to what we were speaking about earlier in the presentation, where you should keep your fonts limited to 2 fonts, and you should kind of have a theme for your colors. So they should be cohesive and they should really go together. So an important thing is kind of to have complementary colors, or a color palette that works well together. Some people are saying the right one feels less messy. The left one makes me feel like I forgot how to read. Yes, I can definitely see that, where it has so much text on it and so many different colors, so many different fonts. Why use many words when few words do the trick? Correct. So that's kind of why we want to go over how to make flyers, right? So if we can give the same information in a few words and we can present it very well, why not do that, right? So I think most of you people have answered in this poll. Jessica says the right one uses complementary colors and what's being offered, and the date and the location are clear. Yep, so in the left one, we can see a lot of different text and it's really hard to tell what's going on. We have contact information on it. We have the date, we have the location, we have the time, but it's hard to tell where everything is. Whereas for the one on the right, we have the location, we have the date, and then it goes back to what I was saying earlier with those little incentives. So in this case, this event is going to have live music, food, noodles, all valid reasons to go to this event. So we have one more round of this little game.
Oh, sorry.
So now for this one, which flyer do you think is better in terms of what was discussed in the presentation, the one on the left or the one on the right? So I'm seeing a lot of people voting for the one on the right. Does anyone want to kind of share why they chose the right one as opposed to the left one? Because they are both flyers for piano school. Has a coherent color scheme. Yeah, so we can definitely see that the one on the right looks more put together. It looks more cohesive overall. The graphics aren't all over the place. And the one on the right looks more upgraded. The theme about piano is clear. Yeah, so we want to make our theme very clear in these flyers, right? So the one on the left, it's very plain background. We have some clip art images here and there, but they don't really go well together. For the one on the right, it's very clear. Just by the picture on the page, we can tell what it is. There's a picture of a piano, so likely this flyer is going to be something about a piano. So the theme is very clear from this one. The information is easy to find. We have the date, we have the time, we have what it is. So group lessons on the bottom, the same thing. This one has like a little incentives on it. So games, prizes, refreshments. But overall, it's very clear to tell what the flyer is about on the one on the right. Rather than the one on the left, we have a lot of different information on it. It's the same information as the one that's on the right, but it's put together less cohesively. So they're kind of just like sporadically on the page in like different locations. It's hard to find where everything is.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes into what we said about keeping it simple. So I think this is a good example of where having a lot of text and having a lot of images doesn't necessarily work as well as if you have like one cohesive graphic, just like clearly states your message.
And so with that, we're going to conclude our presentation for today. Thank you all for coming. So for more information about Spire, what we do, what kind of things we're going to be doing, upcoming events, please check out our newsletter. So you can check out the newsletter by going on this tiny URL link. So tinyurl.com/subscribe and then -spire. Please check out the link for our updates on what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. And we hope to see you again. Thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you for coming. Hope you learned something.